welcome to a new episode of Kirk Chats. My name is Reverend Jasmine Smart, and I am here with the Sundquists. They are residents of Fox Run, and we'll be talking about faith, life, and our changing world today. So, Carol and Paul, how about you introduce yourself a little bit? Just say who you are, when did you get married, that sort of thing. How long have you lived at Fox Run?
Almost 10 years. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's gone by very fast.
Good.
Yeah, and we have existed through COVID and all its little things that it plays with every once in a while.
Yeah.
But yes, been very, very good time. And even though we have all kinds of things that they're doing all the time now, we are functioning very well.
Good, good.
And we have been married for 65 years. Very, very nice.
Starting to lose track. It's so many. So.
Yeah, we have so many things times and that I want to make sure that
right. You have to write it down every month, right? Like to double check.
Because around here it's like, well, we're doing these projects and in 2 weeks it'll all be finished.
Yeah.
Or it'll be 7 years before it's all done. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And we're getting things in the mail every single day about what we can do and can't do because of what's going on.
Yeah.
And we just keep up. And if you don't read your information, you miss things.
You miss out.
Yeah.
Right.
And we go around saying, "Oh, really? Was that on yesterday?"
So it sounds like you've been flexible, and I imagine 65 years of marriage, you've learned how to make compromises.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty safe statement.
That's a very safe. Yeah, it is.
Well, Paul, how about you? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, we met at the University of Cincinnati. It's where we went to school. By the way, the University of Cincinnati was just in the Final Four.
I did see that.
Didn't do all that great, but they were there.
But they made it.
They were there. We have 4 children. We have 9 grandchildren, and we have a family that fortunately we love to get together. So we feel good about that. We have a vacation every year where typically everybody gets together. It's going to get more and more difficult as the grandkids get older and start doing things on their own and all this kind of stuff. But right now we've been able to do that.
Yeah, that's very special to get everyone in the family. And you said it might be harder as they get older, but you're glad that you're doing it now and you have those memories together.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, thank you for that introduction. I did ask you to bring an object that represents faith and something you could tell a story about. So tell me what you brought.
Okay. I hope you can see this because this sometimes falls down a little bit. But this, we had, I'd say, what, 4 or 5 years ago now?
Yes.
We had these so that we could buy these at the church.
Yep.
And I'm going to try to make this as long as possible. And we felt like I just needed to have this because I wear this periodically if there's something special, or it doesn't need to be special. You know, sometimes it would be on Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
And if there's something special otherwise, because even though we live from the church, we still manage to get there once in a while.
Good. Yeah.
And or we see everything. This is wonderful, Jasmine. We see all of this here. And you know, we're going into a period now. We've been through lots of periods. And we're able, on our lower floor, in one of the big areas, to watch it here on Sundays. this is a real treat. And do you know, we've had more around, we've been having about 40.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a little satellite church is what I've been calling it.
Is that what you've been?
And sometimes it feels like you can see more than if you're actually sitting in the pew, because the camera angles go close and they focus on the musicians.
Yes.
So what you're wearing is, I think it's just called the Kirk cross, right?
That is, that's a cross.
The cross, yeah.
It's
So
available from the Kirk.
right. So at the Kirk on the altar. Presbyterians don't normally have altars, by the way, but that is an altar. It's a bowl.
That is.
So on the altar, there's a cross that it has all these designs. I'll put a photo on the screen so they can see it. And outside as well, there's one outside as well.
Yes.
In the garden.
Yes.
So, and then you have a miniature. Some of them had the thing on the bottom, like a little stand for it. But I think mine is like yours, where it's silver and beautiful. I think the Kirk women or someone was like, let's all make sure people can have a piece of it when they go home. I like how you said that it's not just special occasions, that sometimes it is, but sometimes just you feel like wearing it, so you wear it that day.
Yes.
And it reminds you, the cross has always been a symbol of our faith. So to have a cross unique to our church that you can wear is such a special gift.
I think it's needed. And I think as a member of the church, I'm thrilled, really thrilled to have it. And we have moved around and we've been in different churches. I can't remember ever being in another church where we've had that. Is that true? Do you
Yes.
remember it? I don't remember any of the churches.
Well,
that you could buy one of these.
no, that was available.
That they
Yes.
were offering,
Right.
this.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, oh, wow, this is a real treat.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I would like to see other churches that we were in have an opportunity. That doesn't mean that everybody has to buy it,
Right.
but I thought this was very special.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes we have like coffee mugs with church logos on it or something like that. But to have it really speaks to the history of the church that everything was so thoughtful. The architecture, the stewardship of all those resources. So much went into the Kirk that we know and love today. After the lightning strikes and it burned down and they had to rebuild,
It was not a good start, was
No.
No, that wasn't a good start.
So how did you guys start attending at the Kirk, and what kind of made you stay there?
it? It was kind of interesting. We moved to this area 10 years ago. As Carol said, we've lived here about 10 years. And we were looking for a church. We basically were looking for a church to sing in the choir. We both sing and like to do that and so on. And we looked around a little bit, and Carol ended up having an accident, broke a leg, which slowed the looking process down. And finally, after we'd been here a while, I opened the paper one day and looking to what's in the area, and ran across a picture. We saw the Kirk in the Hills. It was interesting because our church in Florida had a Kirkin of the Tartan celebration.
Yep.
And so the Kirk caught my name.
You
So
knew
then
that
I looked
word.
further and then I saw a picture. Well, it was too far, literally. It's like a 30-minute, close to a 30-minute drive. And I told Carol, we're going to go there as tourists. We got to go see this. I've never seen a church, a Presbyterian church. It looks like this.
Yeah.
So we come up to the church. It's in the June, July area. Come up and the Carolina's playing, and there's umbrellas out at the patio area. People are out there having the refreshments before the service. And there was a lady there that was welcoming, who was a deacon, and we got talking to her, and we ended up talking to her for quite a while. She was charming as the dickens. And we kind of talked with her and told her, well, we would not be back because it was too far. We were just there as guests.
Right.
Well, in the middle of the week, we got a note from her thanking us for being, was very glad to have a chance to talk, understood that it was too far, we wouldn't be back, but we just come visit us sometime.
Yeah.
So we went back the next Sunday. The same thing happened, literally. We sat down and ended up at the end of the service, ended up talking to an individual. And this went on. We did like a third Sunday, and about the third Sunday we said, it's not that far. So
It's
we
worth the drive.
joined. Yes.
It's
So
worth
the
the
welcoming was phenomenal. We did not expect that.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. I mean, like you said, there's certain things that draw you in, the architecture, the name Kirk, which is Scottish for church, so it comes from our Presbyterian roots, but yeah.
Yes.
Well, can you guys tell me a little bit about how your faith has changed over your lifetime, or what it means to you now compared to when you became a Christian?
I grew up in the Baptist church, and our family was very, very involved. My father was chairman of the board of deacons, superintendent of Sunday school, and all this kind of thing. Both my mother and father taught at the Sunday school, and we were in church every Sunday. It was a major factor in the lives of my parents, and quite frankly, also in mine. In the Baptist church, you do have the believer's baptism.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal when you go forward on a Sunday morning, and I made the decision that I'm now ready. And I was not joining the church. I was accepting Christ as my personal Savior.
Yeah.
And that was the focus. I wasn't thinking about the fact, I'm joining the church. So it was a very, very big deal at that time for me. I think Carol and I, when we married, we got drafted the month of the wedding.
Yeah.
I ended up in the service in Arkansas.
Wow. Okay.
And so we had a couple of years we spent there. But when we got back to Cincinnati, and we came back to Cincinnati, we began joining the church, attending church fairly regularly. You can talk about your background a little bit as far as I talked about mine. Yours grew up in the church also.
My aunt was very wonderful. She taught school on Sunday. And my grandfather was kind of like Paul's father because he did everything in the church. My aunt did, my grandmother did, and once in a while I would stick my nose in, so to speak. And so I knew the church, but I just didn't take the time. I was busy doing other things. And so, anyway.
One of the things that Carol and I did get involved with the church was the singing. We both sang, we both loved music, loved the choir, so we both ended up singing in the churches, the various churches we were in.
Yeah.
So that became very important. We also got very involved as far as the administration of the church, and very involved in the trustees, the deacons, the elders, all that kind of thing, and we got very involved in that. So the faith was a very important part. The church was a very important part to us. I guess sometimes, in some ways, a little more than I thought. I thought, I attend church, but it's kind of okay. I'm not, dramatic about all this. But as it turned out, I began to realize that the church was a very, very important part of our lives. In fact, I remember at a party one time commenting to a buddy, we were talking about the church and so on, and I said, we build our lives around the church. And after I said that, I thought, wow, you just said that. And that is true. And that's kind of the way it has been from a faith standpoint. It's important, very important to us.
So it sounds like it kind of took you by surprise. Like it started with little steps, and then all of a sudden you were very involved, and it was like, wow, this is important, and this is part of who we are.
Yeah. One of the experiences that we had, that both Carol and I had, and this was in Cincinnati, this was our son, our oldest son, we have 4 children, our oldest son was in junior high. And we took a junior high class for probably 3 years. Some of the most meaningful experiences in the church that we had was with that group of kids.
It's a special age group, right?
Well,
it's very formative. And
yes, it is. And it was also something that was meaningful to them and very meaningful to us. The same situation when you work with the kids and you begin to have an impact. It's extremely, extremely important. So the faith was important there.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll keep the conversation going about faith and life and different stories that we have to share. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And Paul, you were telling me about just kind of thinking about your relationship with God and how that is for you personally. So can you say a little more about that?
Yes. I've often felt, oh gee, I'm not that religious. But that's not the case. That's not true. I have a relationship with God where He is very, very important in my life. And do I pray every day? No, I do not. But when I get into situations where there are issues, I do talk to God. I do pray. And I think it is extremely helpful. I would like to have that relationship even more. Would be helpful as far as I'm concerned, is to be able to feel that God is a presence, that God is there with me. And I can, as an example of that, one of the things I sing, I do solos. And I can remember this typically would occur in church, that one of the things I would do as I got ready to go forward, it's kind of like, okay, God, it's you and me, here we go. And a feeling that is there. And that's kind of the way it is. I don't know if that has anything to do with that. I had God talk to me one time. I don't remember if he said this, and I guess I did have an experience. I'm in the basement downstairs in our lower level of our home in Cincinnati. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the dog is out. So the dog got me up, and I'm down there. I'm standing there, I don't know, thinking about things, and I'm kind of beating myself up over this thing. You need to do this, you need to do that, and you need to do this. And there was a voice. It was a real voice. This is not imagination. Because I stopped and I thought, where did that come from? And it was 4 words, Paul, knock it off. We didn't talk. I didn't have anything to say to him. He was talking to me. And I believe that presence was there. Somebody talked to me.
You knew what God meant in
yes.
that moment.
Yeah. Well, God is in support. God loves you. And I think the more you can turn your life over to God, the more you can believe that, the more that you can believe that the things you hear in your mind when you're working on things are coming from God. What a support that is, if you can do that. I work at that. Yeah. I don't have that nailed by a long shot, but I do work at that feeling of the trust and the confidence in God being there. And when the voice speaks to me, I can listen and I can feel comfortable and confident in that. Yeah. So yeah, I can say, well, no, not really, but God is there. God is very important in my life.
Right. You're right. Not everyone has, when people say God spoke to me, sometimes that means they're reading scripture and, something jumps out. Sometimes it's an audible voice.
This was not casual. This was, I heard. It was not a booming voice at all, but it was very authoritative. And it was, and there was love in the voice. Stop what you're doing.
Yeah. And well, I wonder if this has been a time that you've been able to reflect on life and time from recent times or time from far away. And hopefully that's kind of been a gift to you to think about your faith life and be able to articulate it for the community. Is there any kind of final things that you'd like to say or that you'd like to leave them with?
I think that we feel blessed. I think that we feel blessed with our lives. We feel blessed to be here at Fox Run. We feel blessed to have fallen into the Kirk, as a matter of fact. I had no intention of joining the Kirk. It's too far and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that the people that were there and the welcoming that we received there was important. Of course, the program of the Kirk is unreal. I think there's just so much going on. I'm off the subject a little bit, but a great believer, and I like the small church and the intimate and the closeness and all that kind of stuff. Until we hit a church in Florida that was a huge church. And wow, we had a great experience there. And that church is very Presbyterian. The feeling and the mood of that church is very similar to the Kirk. Architecturally, couldn't be further apart. They're 180 degrees apart. One is very modern and all that kind of stuff, and then the Kirk is very conservative. But the programs are phenomenal, and the people are phenomenal. We feel very fortunate to have fallen into the Kirk. We feel fortunate to have been at Fox Run also, both of these. So our reflection at this time, we feel lucky. We feel lucky to have the family that we have. We have a great family, great kids, grandkids, and all that kind of stuff. So from that standpoint, we do feel lucky. And quite frankly, to go further, our involvement with the church, I think, has been very important and very crucial to that, because we have been involved in the church, very much so, and expect to continue to be.
Yeah, that personal meaning is very clear, that it gives your life purpose and meaning and affects everything you do, whether it's volunteering or family and everything.
Well, we've met wonderful people too. I just can't believe that we have been so fortunate. Not only with just the general people, but also the ministers and outstanding directors of music, and the opportunity to do different things in the church. And some churches have more than others. You know, you're always doing something for a reason, not just to, do. And the church in Florida, we sang 2 services. This is a really large church too. But you not only have practice in the week, but then you sang from 8 o'clock until noon on Sunday, with an outstanding director. Just outstanding. And we've had outstanding directors here too.
Well, thank you both for your time and for your energy and attention and telling us these stories. So I will have another guest next week, but you can see the Sundquists at Kirk West on Sundays, and hopefully we'll be able to connect again next week in our next chat. So thank you for joining us.
Listen, thank you so much.